If I ask you, display your name 100 times, then rather typing the same code 100 times, what else you can do? Let's check it out. Hello everyone, welcome back to another tutorial of iTeaches. So if you remember, I have asked you one question that if you have to display your name 100 times, then rather typing the code for 100 times, the same code for 100 times, what else you can do? The answer is quite simple. We can use the iterative control structure. Now from the name only, iterative control structures. Before we proceed on to this, let's move on to the definition. Now the definition is very simple. It is executing one or group of instructions repeatedly. That means suppose I have my name and I have to display my name 100 times. Then rather than typing my name 100 times, I can write it once and take the help of this iterative control structure that will help me to execute my name 100 times or any number of times, depend upon my requirement. Alright, so this iterative control structure is also known as looping in common terms. Now see, loop consists of two segments. What are those two segments? First one is control statement and the second one is the body of the loop. So basically if you see a loop is basically consists of two statements. One is control statement, another one is body of the loop. We will see to these topics later on in detail. Now move on to the categories. So the loop or the iterative control structure is actually categorized into two broader forms. Number one is depend upon the position of the control statements. As I told you, there are two segments. One is called control statement, another one is called the body of the loop. So depend upon the position of this control statement, we can categorize a particular loop. Similarly, the another broader category is depending upon the execution of the loop. Alright, so we will see to this matter one by one. So let's find it out the first category, that is depending upon the position of the control statement. So depend upon the position of the control statement, loop is actually categorized into two parts. One is called entry control loop, another one is called exit control loop. Now see the next part, that is depend upon the execution of the loop. Now depend upon the execution of the loop, loop can be of two types, definite loop and indefinite loop. So we will look into this matter also. Basically, we will move on to the type of loops now. So basically, what are the types of loop? You can see it in Java. I'm talking about Java here, one example, but in all other programming language also, you will get similar kind of loop. That is for loop, while loop, and do while loop. Now, let's move on to the syntax of the loop. So let's talk about the elements of a loop. Before we proceed to the syntax, these elements are very, very important. We have to first understand what are the different elements to construct a loop. So basically, in general, if you see, a loop consists of three elements. So remember, these three elements are very, very necessary, as I said, for constructing a loop. So what are those things? One by one, we'll check it out. The number one is initial value of the loop. Now to understand this, let's take an example. As we stick to our example, that is we have to display a particular name 100 times. So the counting of this particular name must start from 1. So that means 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on till 100. So we must start from something. We must start from an initial value. So here the first element of the loop is the initial value of the loop. So you can put any initial values. So in this case I'm taking it as 1. So 1 is my initial value from where I will start my journey, and my journey will end till 100. So if you notice over here, the first element is initial value of the loop, and my value that I have put over here in the example as int I is equal to 1. Alright, now move on to the next element. The next element is the test condition of the loop. Basically, test condition means the end of the iteration, that is the end of the loop, means how long the loop will repeat it. So here the loop will repeat for 100 times. So definitely, as we have already put my initial values as 1, so it will go till 100. So that means the value of this variable I must be less than equal to 100. That means this is my end value. So my journey starts from 1 and it will go till 100. So every time if the value of this I, the loop variable, is remain less than 100, this condition remain true. And as long as the condition of the loop is remain true, the statement or the body of the loop keep on executing. One more thing over here you have to understand, that here to define the condition of a loop, you have to use the relational operator. Relational operator means less than, greater than, less than equal to, greater than equal to, like this way. Relational operators you have to use to define the test condition. Now let's move on to the third part. The third element is the loop update statement. Now loop update statement is very important. Remember, this tells you that how you will proceed, that means from the initial value how you will proceed towards your test condition value. So as we have our initial value as 1 and we have to go towards 100, so to move towards 100 we need to increase the value 1 by 1. So initially it is 1, then it will be 2, then it will be 3, then it will be 4, 5, 6, so on, and we'll move towards 100. So depend upon our position, depend upon our situation of initial value and our test condition, we can set our update statement. So that's why I have written over here that it may be increment or decrement depending upon the initial values and the test condition. So in this example, as I told you that our initial value is 1 and we have to go towards 100. So if our initial value is 1 and you have to go towards 100, obviously we have to go for an increment. But if you think just opposite, that if my initial value is 100 and I have to go towards 1, suppose in this 100 place if I put 1, in that case what will happen? I need to go, or I need to come back from 100 towards 1. So here the condition will also change. Here it will be I greater than equal to 100. If I put over here 100, then my condition will change here from I greater than equal to 1. So that means till my value is greater than equal to 1, the conditions remain true and the loop will execute. So remember, this initial value and test value will decide what should be your update statement, whether it will be increment or decrement. So in this case, in this example, it is very simple. We are starting from 1 and it will end till 100. So from the lower value we are moving towards the higher value. So from lower value towards higher value if we are moving, then it is called increment. We require increment. So we can write like this way: increment operator, I plus plus, postfix operator increment we can use. Or if our condition is opposite, if I move from the higher value towards the lower value, in that case it will be decrement and we have to write minus minus. So I hope this idea is clear to you, the elements of the loop. These are the three basic and the most important elements of the loop. Now let's move on to the syntax of the loop, that how, and in the syntax only you will notice that where we will put all these elements. So now if you notice that our syntax, the syntax of the loop is very clear, that we have three different loops here. The first one is for loop, then is the while loop, and then third one is the do while loop. Now if you observe that in the for loop syntax, all these three elements, that is element number 1, here is our element number 1, this is element number 2, and this is element number 3. That means the initial value, then the test condition, and then we have the loop update. Remember always that between these elements we have to put semicolons, alright, because these are the individual control statements, so we have to put the semicolon in between. And finally you have the body of the for loop. So body of the for loop must be between the curly brackets, and here in this body we can write down our code. So our code in this example is, we will write down a print statement of our name. Only one times we have to write, and the loop will do the rest. Means whatever the test condition and initial value you set and the update you set, depend upon that, this loop will automatically execute for that number of times. Okay, so remember, this is the syntax of the for loop. So try to understand this particular structure of the for loop. Alright, and after that we have this structure. This structure is of while loop. If you notice, these while loop also have these three elements, but these three elements placed at different places. Alright, so if you see this control statement, these control statements are in line, means in one line only you have, but in case of a while loop you have all these three elements in three different lines. So first one is the initial one over here, then we have the while, this is the keyword while, and then we have to write down the test condition, and then you have the body of the loop, and inside the body only we have to write down the element number 3, that is the loop update. After that, if you move on to this third form, the third form is the do while loop. It is also same. Over here if you notice, we have the element 1, then element 3 and element 2. This is interesting. We have element 1, then we have element 3, and then we have element 2. Alright, so that means what we have here, we have to initialize the loop first, and after that we have a do block, and then at the end we have this while. In the while what we have? We have the condition first and then we have the body. But here we have what we have? We have the body first and then we have the condition. So depend upon this arrangement only. If you remember in the previous slide, I already told you that the loop can be an entry control loop or an exit control loop. So this is the difference. This arrangement is actually different. Okay. So over here, if you see, this is the condition at the top. This is the control statement is at the top. Here also the control statement is at the top, that is the condition is at the top, condition is at the top, and then we have the body, then we have the body. So this means it is called entry control, means the entry is first controlled. And over here if you see, there is no entry control here, but at the end we have the control statement. This means this is called exit control. Alright, this is exit control and these two loops are entry control. We'll talk about all these things with some examples also in the coming videos. So I hope you understand the basic syntax of the loop and the elements. What are the different elements we have to use to construct a loop? In the coming video, you will see some examples, some practical examples of this loop also. So with this, we come to the end of the part number 1. So in the next part, we are going to see the different examples, some practical examples of the use of different kind of loops. So if you like this tutorial, then please like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to give your valuable comments. See you in the next video.